Please subscribe this channel and watch another videos. The position of the Duchess is coveted by all. I arrived at Duke Wiliot's estate and became engaged to their only heir, Layla, the summer I turned 14. Your Grace, the Wiliot household is a renowned noble family known for producing the Empire's greatest knights. Thankfully, the Duke and Duchess from this distinguished family. Oh, my Layla? She asked. Did you make all these yourself? That's quite impressive. Treated me as their own daughter, regardless of my humble status as a lesser noble from the countryside. They always showered me with delicious and nourishing foods, and I was always the first to receive any lavish or invaluable gifts. They had been so kind to me that even Philin, their son, grew jealous. And I, in turn, she asked? My son still has much to learn. Please look after him as his wife and Duchess. I entrust Philin and the Wiliot dukedom to you, Layla, she said. Yes, Your Grace, I loved them with all my heart. I was occupied with learning my responsibilities as the Duchess of the Wiliot family from the current matriarch, while Philin devoted himself to honing his swordsmanship. So, we seldom had a chance to sit down and have an actual conversation, even though we were engaged. But that didn't necessarily mean we were not on good terms, Layla said. Are you done with practice, Philin? Our relationship wasn't passionate like lovers nor particularly amiable like close friends, Philin said. Layla, she asked. Why the long face? You were scolded again, weren't you? But whenever we had a chance to share even a short conversation, Philin said. It's strange, isn't it? It's as if they're more your parents than mine, Grumble, Layla said. Don't be silly, Philin. Your appearance, your preferences, and even your swordsmanship skills bear a striking resemblance to the Duke's. We were close enough to playfully tease and jest with each other. Come now, don't be mad. I was so happy living with the Wiliot family. That is, until one unpredictable day that changed everything. It was as if fate were playing a cruel joke on me, Layla said. The rain is pouring outside. I hope the people living around here remain safe, Maid said. We already made preparations ahead of time, so please do not worry, my lady. You are so very kind. I am confident that you will make an exceptional Duchess, much like her Grace, Layla said. Do you really think so, Misa? Misa said. Of course. And I do not believe I am the only one who thinks, Lady Layla. Something terrible has happened. It's their carriage. It has veered off course and slid off the road, Philin asked. Layla, she asked. The Duke and Duchess. Their carriage. It skidded and it'll be okay. I'm sure they'll return to US safely. They wouldn't just leave US like this, Layla asked. You're right. All I had wished for was to see his and her Grace walk through that door, Layla, our beloved daughter, and cheerfully call my name. But the heavens were cruel and turned a blind eye to my wishes. Philin tragically lost his parents and assumed his father's title far sooner than he'd expected. He fell into a state of dejection, leading him to withdraw into the solitude of the training halls. I was still just his betrothed, and yet I had to manage all the Duchess's duties. And it fell upon me to attend to all the duties he should have been responsible for as the Duke. To mourn the death of the late Duke and Duchess, Philin and I decided to postpone our marriage and coming-of-age ceremony for the following 3 years. Then one day, the Emperor unexpectedly declared war on neighboring nations, and Philin was called to serve on the front lines. 6 years later. You must be overjoyed, Lady Layla, she asked. What? Maid Misa said. I meant about seeing His Grace again. My goodness, it's been almost 6 years since he left. I'm thrilled that the war has finally concluded and that His Grace is returning. There, we're all done. Have a look in the mirror, Lady Layla. You look gorgeous. You truly do. Just like an angel from heaven. Please, that's enough. You're all embarrassing me. This silky dress, all these jewels and makeup. It's been so long since I've dressed like this. It all feels utterly ill-suited. So much has happened since Philin left for the battlefield. I'm grateful I survived through it all. The plague, the famine, now, I can finally see him again. I wonder how he has changed in those 6 years. I suppose I'll find out as soon as... Layla! It is time for you to go and greet His Grace, Lady Layla, she said. All right, let us go. Lady Layla asked. Have you completed the preparations for his return? Maid Misa said. Yes, Lady Layla. We've just been informed that His Grace has passed the front gates. It's not as if I suddenly feel passion or affection for him now. But since we're to be wed upon his return. That's right, once he has come home we will, Layla asked. Welcome back, Phil. Phil and Williet had returned from the battlefield with a woman in his arms. I've waited for him for 6 years, and he has someone else in his arms. This can't be happening. A woman with silky, glossy blonde hair. Even her skin looked soft, and she appeared to have a baby bump. Don't tell me she's, Philin said. It can't be. Then that woman and His Grace are. Silence! All of you, Maid Misa whispered. Don't mind them, Lady Layla. His Grace would never do something so awful. This must be a terrible misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, you say, but what if she indeed is carrying Philin's child? Then what do I do? Should I behave like any other distressed woman, resorting to pulling her hair and screaming in her face? Or must I play the role of a composed noblewoman, concealing my anger and feigning indifference? But wait. Do I even have the right to be angry? I am not his wife, after all. I am nothing but his betrothed. I'm still Layla Tavessa, not Layla Williet. That means I'm but a mere guest in this estate, not the Duchess, she said. Well, Philin smirked. It appears a hushed atmosphere has settled over the estate in my absence. And that includes you, Layla. Come now, say something. Don't tell me you've forgotten how to speak in the past 6 years? Layla asked. Don't be silly, Philin. A bit surprised, that's all. Huh? By what? What does he mean by that? He can't be serious. Is he just testing me? If that's not it, then is that woman carrying the child of another man? Layla asked. Now, Philin said. Let's get you down from the horse. You must be tired from the long journey, Misa muttered under her breath. How could His Grace do this? It's not right for him to do this to Lady Layla. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Right in front of his intended, no less. I can't make them stop talking. He isn't supposed to treat me this way, even though our engagement is nothing more than a superficial arrangement. Philin turned. Oh right, Misa. Yes, Your Grace. Go on inside and rest, Sisley. You must be fatigued from the arduous journey. What sort of room would you prefer? I would like a well-lit room. Misa hesitated. Pardon me, Your Grace, but that room belongs to the Duchess. I can't let anyone use the former Duchess's room, and you can't let just anyone stay in that room. It's reserved exclusively for the Duchess. But my father was an exception, and so were you, Philin replied. Layla clenched her fists. The former Duke was the lord of this castle, and all I did in there was work. I never once slept in that room. Still, that room has some of the best lighting. There are other rooms. I hadn't anticipated you'd be quite so argumentative over an unoccupied chamber, Layla. Philin interrupted. I am the lord of this estate, so my word is law. Misa, carry out my instructions and arrange for a maid to attend to her needs so that she may feel well cared for. As you wish, Your Grace. Philin turned back to Layla. Layla. Are you upset? Are you upset, Layla? He asked. She replied. No, Philin asked. All right then. The man I was to marry has returned from 6 long years at war, only to allow a stranger to occupy the Duchess's bedchamber as her lodging. Layla sighed. Maid Misa asked. Are you all right, Lady Layla? Layla said. I'm fine. Don't mind me. Saying that this bothers me isn't going to make the situation any better. I went through all the trouble of dressing up and preparing to welcome him, but instead, I find a man who has returned with another woman in tow. Though I simply wish to set everything aside and retire to my chamber, Layla said. Let us go inside now. We must prepare for dinner. Please escort our guest to her room, Misa. Ah, and one more thing. If you witness anything suspicious, report to me immediately, Misa asked. Yes, Lady Layla. I knew I couldn't, considering my role and responsibilities within the estate, Layla said. It has been 9 years since I started overseeing the Duke's duties. Having been occupied with the arrangements for Philin's homecoming celebration, I knew it was now imperative that I start working on the overdue paperwork. Even those who once held reservations about my role as the acting Duchess came to accept my efforts over time. However, at the same time, they were not forgiving when it came to mistakes, which is why I endeavored to put my all into every task handed to me so as to achieve flawless results, Layla said. Every last detail must be perfect. All right, this might be the last, she gasped. I was so absorbed in my duties that I failed to notice the impending rain this evening. Whenever the storms came, I would weep in hushed sobs. I presume my emotional response is attributed to the rainy night the Duke and Duchess died. Do you remember that day, Philan? I suppose not. You must have forgotten what kind of pain I had to go through. That's why you allowed her to stay in the Duchess's room and then asked if I was upset, Misa asked. Excuse me, Lady Layla? Dinner is ready, Layla asked. Oh, I suppose I got so caught up in work, I hadn't realized the time. It's Philan's first day back at the estate since the war. I cannot miss the opportunity to dine together on such an occasion. Indeed, this is an act of courtesy as a family member, even though it will prove somewhat discomforting to be seated across from him at the dining table, Misa replied. I understand it has been a long time since His Grace last saw you, but I believe he is exhibiting excessive unkindness toward you, my lady, Layla said. This maid makes for a delightfully adorable sisterly figure. You there, what about this one? Bring it over here. It almost feels like this estate has regained its vigor now that the Duke has returned. I should go past them as quickly as I can. I don't want to bother them, Misa asked. Oh, good evening, Lady Layla, Layla asked. Wait. It's almost dinner time. Where are you taking that cart? A maid replied. His Grace has requested that his meal be served in his room as he's feeling too exhausted to come out to the dining hall. Does Philan even consider me family? The former Duke and Duchess would say that they regarded me as their own daughter. However, those were merely words. In truth, I could never truly be their daughter. Although it has been over 10 years since I've devoted myself to the Williot household, as someone who does not truly belong to the family, I do not possess the privilege to demand a shared dinner. The servants are trying to make me feel better, but they all know that too. But still, how could he? There's too much food for just His Grace, I muttered. Misa hesitated. Well, she asked. Did the Duke ask you to? Yes, His Grace wished to have dinner with the guest he brought today, Philan. Lady Layla, a maid called. A servant rushed in. My lady, there is a pressing set of documents that demands your immediate consideration. Of course, I am aware that this falls under His Grace's scope of responsibilities, but as you may already know, His Grace is, Layla interrupted. Baron Widgeard, Layla declared. From now on, Philan alone shall assume the Duke's responsibilities,